7, I would call the meeting to order, please. Trustees, come to order. First thing we have is a Zoom presentation by Erin Julius, and a reminder when anyone who are speaking, be sure to speak directly into it so that you can be heard. Okay. And turn it off. Okay, so I will turn it over to the presentation.
Can everybody hear me?
I can. Yes.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So I have met most of you. I think all of you, actually. I've taken your pictures. I'm Erin Julius, the Marketing and Communications Director. This is the first time that we are guinea pigs for presenting virtually. I had a little trouble hearing Fran there. So if you guys have any trouble hearing me or want to ask some questions and I don't get that, just let Jessica know. And we did do a run through Monday, so we can work out the kinks as we go along. All right, Christina is running the slideshow for me. If you could go to the next slide and we'll introduce you. So you know me, Christina is the communication specialist. She's running the slideshow. G is also joining us virtually today. She's the supervisory graphic artist. We recently lost our graphic designer. She left for another position. So we're currently hiring for that, but we have traditionally been a team of 4 and we're a pretty new team. None of us have been here longer than 2.5 years. Christina has the most tenure with the library at 2.5 years. G just hit 2 years in October, and I joined right smack in the middle of the pandemic in July of 2020. So we're a pretty young team, and we do rely on Christina for the institutional knowledge. I'm excited to get somebody new in as a graphic designer, and we are also, just today, we finished up interviews for an administrative assistant who will be splitting their time between our team and the foundation and some programming. So we're going to grow a little bit, hopefully very soon. Next slide. So this presentation is about our owned tools and channels. That's what we control. We don't have to rely on anybody else. We don't have to pitch to the media for this. This is what our team is doing every day. Obviously, one big communications tool is the website. Our little team of 4 manages the news section and the magazine subsection. So much bigger team. Margaret's people take care of a lot of the ins and outs of, it's a pretty big site. That's the section that we manage specifically. We also take care of social media. That is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. There'll be more on that later. And as you all are familiar with, we have Branch Out, which is our quarterly magazine. That's where we get the feature stories. That's where we, shown here is a feature on the summer reading adventure. So we try to make things informative and interesting, and G takes care of making things absolutely eye-catching and beautiful. In Branch, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I think everybody's very familiar with what's available in Branch, or you can just go tour George Mason there. They do an excellent job posting things. But that's what your posters, your flyers, your bookmarks, your brochures, giveaways, that kind of thing that tends to be very niche and event driven or targeted to a very specific audience. Of all of this, what I am most excited about is our e-newsletter, because it is coming soon. We had quite a time getting a mass email platform that the county would approve, but we have one. We are building templates. We're going to do a dry run, switching our internal newsletter over to that platform in the coming weeks, make sure that we work out all the kinks there, and then we will have an e-newsletter for our card holders and other interested folks, hopefully in January. Next slide, please, Christina. Okay, so what we do beyond making things pretty, somebody at my last job described us as making things pretty and very much irritated our graphic designer. So I try to stay away from that phrase and teach people what we do beyond that. We are here to convey accurate, timely information to our stakeholders. Those are our card holders, Fairfax County residents, our visitors, and our county and community partners. We work hard, and just since I've been here, we have given more focus to ensuring our materials, both print and digital, comply with accessibility requirements. Sort of in keeping with that, we consider the diversity of our audience at all times. So that includes backgrounds, needs, interests, and how they consume materials and how they are able to consume materials. And this all leads us to educating the public about the resources offered by the library system and providing information related to literacy and why that's important, and about our resources and our industry. The winter branch out has a feature about ebook myths, which I think is timely and will be of interest to many people, because a lot of us enjoy ebooks. I have learned a lot about, why I can't loan my ebook to my mom, or why I can't donate them. So it's not just FCPL specific things. We are trying to educate people about the library and a little bit about the publishing world, because that's all relevant to what we do. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it's not that interesting. The main point, the thrust of this, is that the Office of Public Affairs is responsible for administrating all county accounts and managing staff access. So that means they approve who from our team is allowed to access that. They set up the access, and they also approve platforms. So I have actually asked about a couple different platforms since I've gotten here, and we still have the 3 that we had when I got here. And that's fine. That is more than enough for us to work with. So we abide by the county social media policy. Only staff who have been approved by OPA have access to the agency accounts. And in some cases, we actually don't have access to the accounts. We post through a third-party app. All of that is important to know, just because a lot of times people, one question that I get frequently is, well, can we post on Nextdoor? Can we have a, I don't think I've been asked for a TikTok, but I'm expecting that day to come. We are not the deciders. The Office of Public Affairs is the decider in those situations. All right, enough of that. Next slide, please. So Facebook is our largest social media audience, with a little, I did this last week, and it was a little over 15,000 followers. 82% of them are women, which, if you've been in a branch lately, isn't terribly surprising. 38% are between the ages of 35 and 44. 25% are between the ages of 45 and 54. Very, very few are teenagers or young 20s. Facebook is a huge, very general audience that appeals to all ages these days. And we reach about 25,000 people a month. That's an average. I took that from several previous months. So that's a big overview. Next slide, please. So Facebook is great. We don't post all of our events to Facebook because all of our events are posted on the website through LibCal. But we curate and choose those that we think will be of most interest, or in some cases, those that just need a little bit of extra love that branches have asked us to promote a little heavier. Book sales, as you can see, that's my dog, are super popular. People also like to know little updates about sort of behind the scenes. So we absolutely very early on crushed the summer reading goal. And as you can see, people responded really well to that bit of information. And people absolutely loved Library to Go, the new service that was born out of the pandemic and officially launched to all branches in, I want to say, September. She made this adorable graphic that somebody in the comments even said that they loved the graphic. So this is where our updates are, and this is the place where if you don't want to sort through all of the LibCal events, we have curated a list, and that is publicly available. You don't have to have a Facebook account to be able to see the list of Facebook events. So it's a nice way to see just sort of what the highlighted events are. Next slide. So Twitter is our second largest audience with a little over 8,000 followers. While Facebook is very general and we have a lot of staff members, card holders, all kinds of people follow us there, I see Twitter as more where we connect with our partners. And in some cases, this is very cool with authors. You can see here, Lulu did an event in, I want to say, late September, early October. She did an event with us, and she was retweeting us and helping to promote her event, which is great. You can't buy that kind of exposure because obviously her audience is going to be the most interested people. So that's super exciting, and of course we use Twitter to give all of our updates. Like the catalog was offline on November 2nd, and we made sure that we let people know on all of our platforms. We also like to use Twitter to amplify. On the screen is a tweet from somebody who works in, I want to say, tech ops, who had a great book recommendation while she was just at work. And that's the kind of, people love that kind of content, and we can help amplify that. Sometimes we'll retweet friends, the foundation. So all of the partners and people who know what they're talking about and have interesting things to say, we like to share that. Next slide, please. Instagram is the newest. It was established before I got here, but that would be why it's a bit smaller, not quite 3,000 followers. Also kind of odd because there are two ways to post to Instagram. One is on the feed, and you can see that forever. One is a story, it's called a story, and it kind of leaves after 24 hours. So the nice thing about a story, though, is you can just click that link and register for an event right there. So we do find it useful. And again, it is a great place to connect with our partners and authors, in addition to our other card holders and interested folks. Jeff Sentner did an event in October, and he too shared multiple stories promoting his event. So it makes it easier for them too. We do the work of posting and putting the link in there, and all they have to do is share. Next story, please. Next slide. Okay, so website. We, as I mentioned earlier, control the newsroom and magazine sections. These are where we have much more detailed updates. So Twitter, you have a cap of how many characters you can use. So you can't say a lot, but you can tell people the headline and then send them to the website for all the details. So that's what we did with the public catalog being down. We like to do feature stories, particularly during the pandemic. Branch staff wrote a lot to contribute to this section. And we have helpful tips. There was something in September about helpful back to school kind of tips, how to use the library. So this is, if we need more than 260 characters, this is where we put it, and where we're driving people to from the 3 platforms that I was talking about earlier. Next slide, please. So our e-newsletter that I'm super excited about, it will be opt-in. That means cardholders will not be automatically signed up. So we are respecting people's privacy there. They'll have the option of sharing their email. We are also going to be creating a welcome series for new cardholders that'll go out just like the account notices go out. And that'll be about 3 emails and just sort of give people an overview of all of our program services, non-traditional library things, and also give them the option there to sign up for the newsletter. It will be monthly to start. That'll allow us to provide more timely updates than we can in a quarterly magazine like Branch Out, and also do event promotion in a timely way, and give people library news right into their inbox. And this will be flexible. We'll be able to modify the look, feel, content based on the library's needs. And it'll also be trackable. So we will be able to see what people are actually clicking on, which will help us better understand what people are wanting from us. And maybe they want more tips. Maybe they want more interviews with early literacy specialists. Maybe they want more book recommendations. We really have no way of knowing without doing super labor intensive surveys and focus groups right now. So allowing us to see what folks are clicking on is going to be really helpful to us tailoring what we're doing. Next slide. That is all. If you have any questions, I am here, and hopefully Ken here, and Christina and G are also online.
Feel free to ask any questions if anybody wants.
Yeah. Hi, Erin, first of all, we are very lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted, I had a couple of questions, took some great notes here. One of my questions was when we're going to start doing TikTok, so that was great.
Now I've gotten that question.
Right. And actually, I wrote down, when are we going to get Instagram? But then you told me we have Instagram, so I'm embarrassed to say that I did not know we had Instagram. So I'm happy for that. But my question was, for the social media, do you have a target for the number of posts that you try to do per day?
No, we don't have that kind of target. One thing, and why I started with staffing, why that's relevant, is my goal is to get some of the sort of relentless day-to-day work that Christina takes care of now, get that off her plate so that we can have her a little bit more dedicated to social media and have a bit more of a social media strategy. Right now, our big focus, or I will say for the last year, the big focus has just been on getting people to share things, because that's how you reach the new people. So we've been much more focused on the sharing and sort of experimenting with what works. We have found that individual Facebook events works better than a post summarizing 3 different events coming up, because everything kind of gets lost there. So the last year has been kind of experimentation. And I think as we grow the team a little bit and get our graphic designer back, we're going to be able to set out a really strong strategy for 2022.
Okay, I have one quick second question. I don't want to hog the time. Have we considered LinkedIn at all for any posts?
Funny you should ask that. No, and I actually haven't seen anything about that from the county either. So I don't know. That's a very good question. I was actually thinking about it for another reason earlier today. And I don't know why that hasn't been in discussions at all. So consider it in discussions.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Erin. You had figures in terms of visits to some of the social media, but I didn't see anything. I don't think I've heard anything from the webpage. Do you have how many users are going to the webpage?
I did not really hear that.
I was just wondering, I did not see, and I don't think I heard anything regarding the webpage, how many visitors are going to the webpage, distinct users, that kind of thing, when you had it for the other social media.
So, Erin, I can answer part of that. The library's pages on the county website have traditionally been one of the highest volume traffic sites for the county. And county DIT tracks that for us. And from our homepage and from links to the catalog, it's typically in the tens of millions a year.
Yeah.
I don't know specifically, but it's very high.
Anybody else? And then I would say identify yourself. So
Hi, Erin, it's Priscilla Dando. I perked up when I heard a little bit about you making a comment around the early 20s as patrons and perhaps not being engaged in the numbers in social media. I'm not sure if this is really a question for you or maybe a question for Jessica. But a while ago when we did the engagement survey ahead of the strategic plan, it was really clear that there was kind of a wide gap, a missing gap of early young singles or couples without children. And of course, we know it's a fact of life, we all get older, but I'm just wondering if this is one of the things that we might be trying to strategize around, just to build that base in a you know, a more well-rounded foundation. I know that we've talked about the areas of our community that perhaps would depend more on our library programs. But I also think that there's so much our library programs can offer all age groups. And I'm just curious if there's any thinking around that.
Erin, you're muted. Oh, we know that you're muted. Okay, I will start while we figure out how to unmute Erin. So in general, yes. Part of our communication goals is trying to reach audiences that we have traditionally underserved or underrepresented. So for us, I think many of us in the library field recognize that we have these tracked audiences when kids are little and their parents bring them in, and when they're teenagers and they're using libraries to check out materials for schoolwork or they're studying. And then they hit college and beyond and they're like, I'm good, I'm gonna take a little break. And then we get them back when they themselves have children and they come back and cycle back to the library. So that kind of newer emerging adult population before they reemerge at the library services is always one that we're looking at reutilizing them. Erin and her crew have done an amazing job of mixing and matching social media posts that are pertinent and relevant to the work that we do in libraries. Like, here are some events that we have, here are great resources we have, with things that I look at and I think, really, why would we post that? But then they tell me that it was amazing and it drew on all these people and it makes no sense to me. I've joked with Erin a couple of times. We did a post last year that was about a vegetable. What was that one? It was, Erin, is your audio on?
I think mine is, but now I think Christina did that post because it was before I got here. So she would, I want to say carrot, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, it was this really weird post about, I can't even remember what now, but it was about making a joke about a vegetable. And like thousands of people liked it. And it has nothing to do with the library, but it draws users in who then are like, okay, that was kind of funny. Oh, there's a cat video, okay. And then they get hooked. And then they're listening to our other messaging that's actually what we want to participate in. So nothing formal as of yet, but certainly something that we're trying to.
Yeah, it's tough. And I will say trying to appeal to teens and younger adults is the only thing that we've actually put advertising money behind on social media in a year and a half, and wasn't a raging success. So that is definitely an area of struggle for everyone in library world. And we are gonna continue to try new things.
I have a follow-up question. Hi, Erin, it's Jenna. I wanted to ask whether in looking at this population and how to engage them in our social media, just something that was coming to mind that I have found just individually with people in that age group, makes them interested in the library is when I tell them all the money that they can say that they're actually spending, right? So like, I wonder, I'm just like, because I literally will break it down for them, like I'll open my ebooks, my Libby, and I'll just, like, this is thousands and thousands of dollars of books that I have listened to, and you would have to pay your Audible membership, X numbers of a month, or bought them, et cetera, right? So that's super appealing, and many people have gone and gotten their library card that they have before just to be able to use the ebooks. I don't know, I think for that, and teenagers too, right? So, I think that maybe it's always like the money angle is a good angle for young adults who don't know that all the things
That's why I got a library card. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely
And
right.
that's why
I got a library card at like age whatever, after going that long period because I stopped because I had overdue books for my kids. And I stopped, and then I went back so that I could use Libby, so I don't know, I think that it's always appealing when you find out the money you can save.
I'm interested in the older population. I think that the statistic went up to age 44. Were there any statistics for users over that age? I guess that was Facebook and the different things, or any strategies of reaching, waking old people up, old people like me, to social media and the library, that they might not know. Maybe they used to go to the library, but now they can't go, and they don't realize that there's a lot that can happen.
So I think the only thing I heard in there was strategies and old people like me. I can take a guess at where that question was going, or if.
Oh, I was on your students. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's good.
Okay, your the age breakdown from Facebook, I think stopped at 44, and I wondered about what beyond that age, and then the idea of appealing to older adults who maybe used to go to the library and now they're not as mobile, and so they think they can't use the library anymore because they can't physically go, to somehow to sort of wake them up to the possibility, like what Sujata was talking about with the ebooks, et cetera, that don't require even a visit to the library. Not that we don't want them to come, but that issue.
Yeah, so the interesting thing and why I shared the age breakdown is it's 38%, 35 to 44, 20-some%, 45 to 54, and then high teens, I think, for the age bracket after that. So, because there is this misconception, I've had branch staff say, oh, well, this is kind of for an older audience, so we don't need social media. And that is a misconception because my grandmother is on Facebook. So everybody can be on Facebook, and is not everybody, but all ages can enjoy Facebook. And I would say a lot of our virtual events, particularly during the day, which I'm, oftentimes people in their working years are not going to be available for events during the day. But sometimes those are some of the most popular events. So we try to, it's this weird dance of not making too many assumptions about who's out there ahead of time and putting stuff out there and seeing what topics are of interest and what times work. Because there are so many different populations. And I think older adults are a lot more comfortable in the virtual space, particularly since the pandemic kind of changed everything. So yeah, I actually think that is one of our most active populations on Facebook. I think if we're going to have any hope of engaging with younger people, that's going to be on Instagram. So I hope that answered your question. it's all very tough. It's a guessing game, and it doesn't help that everybody changes their algorithm all the time.
Mary, do you have a question? I think that's it for the questions, is to speak up if I'm wrong, anyway.
Excellent. Well, I will just, if I could say one last thing. The best thing, if you want to assist in getting library messages out there, are if you're online, if you're on social media, sharing posts, liking posts, that helps, you know, get engagement, which helps get things out to more people. And we will have more information about the e-newsletter soon, and we will absolutely be needing your help in getting people signed up for that as well. So.
Okay, so here's something that I'm gonna admit, I don't know how to do those things.
I'm also available for tutorials.
Sharing and posting and all of that, I mean, I'm sort of like with Facebook, I like to look, I watch, you know, and I don't do a lot, because I don't really know how, so I don't know, maybe other people are like that too and don't want to admit it. And maybe a little information sheet for us on how we can do these things would be really helpful.
I'm happy to do that, or if it's easier to like share screens and do a tutorial, I did that for folks at my last job, so I have a PowerPoint ready.
Be Facebook ambassadors.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you so much. That was fascinating. And, okay, now back to the agenda. We're going to go back because of my excitement to see this presentation. I forgot to read about public comment. And required too, so here it goes, out of order, but nevertheless. The library board wishes to provide an opportunity for the public to comment on library-related issues. It is our policy to hear a maximum of 5 speakers at each regularly scheduled board meeting. Speakers are limited to 1 public comment during a 6-month period. Each speaker has a maximum of 3 minutes for their comments. A 30-second warning will be given before each speaker's time is up, and the speaker will be expected to end promptly when time is called. Speakers are requested to pre-register with the library director. However, if there are available public comment slots open at the time of the board meeting, the remaining slots may be filled by individuals registering at the meeting. Board members will not question or respond to speakers. And tonight, there are no registered speakers. If anyone wishes to speak at a future meeting, please call the director's assistant at 703-324-8324. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the minutes. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes? Thank you, Phil. Any second? Second. Thank you, Liz. Any discussion on the minutes or corrections or additions? I see none, so I will call a question. All those in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye. Raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. The minutes are passed. The chair's report. I just had some thoughts that I wanted to share. As libraries have evolved, we continue to create the library of the future, and I think our presentation tonight was really for that. From the classic definition of a library as a place with collections of books, we are in one sense evocative troves of imagery, blurring eras, familiar phrases, and identities. And I didn't say that, I quoted somebody from the New York Times on that. That was so cool. And another down-to-earth sense, investments of public money in generational, cultural, and learning centers. As an integral part of the life of the county, that means continuing to respond to the changes in our community within the context of our values, especially freedom of speech. Censorship will never have a place in the public library. And as trustees, we support the work of library staff to implement this ideal. Back to the agenda. Committee reports, and we have a quarterly report in schools. So,
Thank you, and thank you so much for asking me to keep the Board of Trustees abreast of Fairfax County Public Schools, and especially what I'm really proud of, which is our school library program. So I shared with you just tonight, I'm sorry I didn't make it into the board packet, a kind of a just the facts introduction, since this is my first report, and you know, I don't think we've actually figured out the dates, but I think we maybe January-ish, because that's second quarter school, right? And so then you can certainly reach out to me if you have an interest in particular topics or looking for information, but my goal in this report, unless I'm directed otherwise, is to really just keep you up to date on the important aspects of our school library programs and anything that might be of interest to the board in FCPS in general. So that's what I tried to do here, just to kind of kick us off. But I did think that there were a few topics you might want to hear a little bit more about, and one of which is how the school library programs have responded and survived and adapted as a result of the disruption of school due to the COVID crisis. And just as we did in the public library, the school library had some unique challenges during that 18 months or so. We are so excited now to have our students back in our libraries. They're using the libraries, and in fact, they're using our school libraries in even greater enthusiasm than they were before. And there are all kinds of theories about that, but I think one of those theories is after spending so much time being disconnected from each other and being connected through technology, there's just something about being able to have a space of your own in a school, especially at secondary school, where you can choose to be there, and also to be able to have somewhat of a level of autonomy in a space, particularly when you are looking for something to support your interests. And I think that's universal from pre-K to 12th grade. The library is there for you as an individual. So some of the things that we've seen as a result is our print circulation is really high for where we are compared to this time back in 2018, 2019. And I think, again, that's kind of a response to the whole, a lot of reading online. If you recall, I mentioned some months ago, our ebook usage went up 600%. Well, that made sense because it was very difficult, even though we had curbside checkout, so many of our students don't have the ability to, on their own, get to the school to do some of that physical checkout. We were fortunate to have some amazing, intrepid librarians who went out to on school bus runs, who went and delivered directly to homes during that time, and offered alternative locations in neighborhood community centers, because people really wanted that engagement. And Dina Duena, who was the librarian at Terraset in Reston, was one of the heroes of education according to Time Magazine. It was really exciting that she was recognized because she went to 50 family homes every week, you know, rotating through to make sure that every child had an opportunity to see her. And she was on NBC News too, which was super cute because they felt she's going to drop off some goodies for them. So librarians are adaptable and flexible, and they're service providers. So they're going to see a need and they're going to try and step up into it. But that doesn't come without a cost. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure that everyone understands is, you know, everyone in our schools are stressed at the moment. Our students are definitely stressed, and they're turning to the library for ways to relieve some of that stress. So our libraries, elementary, middle, and high school, are third spaces. There are spaces that students own and that they feel comfortable with and that they can be themselves in. One of our mottos is the library is where everyone belongs, and that's basically what we're striving for every single day. That every individual is not just welcomed into the library, but invited into the library. And that takes a whole lot of different aspects and pathways to have that culture. But we also believe, because school libraries work with every student and every teacher, that the culture of the school library so goes to contributing to the culture of the school. And that's a lot of the conversations that I have. So libraries are helping students not only with their academics and pursuing their interests, but also with wellness. Everything from creating origami stations where students can just kind of do some paper therapy and just relax a little bit, take their mind off what's bothering them, to making activities, to getting together in a variety of clubs. Libraries are relooking at their spaces as individual and small group spaces, not just home group spaces. And where the space doesn't drive the function, but thinking about what's needed and then making the space adapt to that. So that's really kind of a hot topic right now in our library world. Collaboration with teachers is also on the rise. Teachers also felt really isolated. And so we're finding that I was just at a visit at Lake Braddock, and they were just so excited to share all of the new learning opportunities and collaborative opportunities they have with teachers. And then there's some challenges. And so some of the challenges are, it's a really heavy lift right now. For everybody in schools, and I'm going to say so much of the work of school librarians is invisible because of the management and administrative duties that go on with the library, and the demands that are occurring at the school because of things like substitute shortages or additional needs for students, additional needs from teachers. And the librarians are used to being the people of yes. And sometimes it's really overwhelming. So from our central office standpoint, you know, we prioritize visiting schools. We're in schools every minute we can be. We are providing hands-on help. I've substituted for everything from an instructional assistant to a librarian just to get people through the day, honestly, and to understand that we're all in this together. And just to put it in perspective, I was talking with the principal at Annandale High School, and he said their ninth graders right now never had a normal middle school experience. So they went from a normal sixth grade experience to a normal ninth grade experience. And just imagine what that leap must be like for some of our students who didn't have the transitions that we would normally have. But our librarian and library programs really play a vital role instructionally, of course, but really just in support of providing services to the entire school community. And we really do value our relationship with FCPL. I certainly at the division level value my relationship with Jessica and admin, and the idea that we have similar goals and that we try to connect with each other and work with each other on these goals on a regular basis. And where it's really exciting is when we can see school librarians and branch librarians get together, have conversations, where FCPL librarians are coming to visit in schools, things like shared author visits, and sharing of resources, just even sharing information. All of those are things are important. So obviously I could go on and on and on. I'm so proud of our library programs and our librarians in our library programs, and they are giving it everything that they have. And sometimes they aren't appreciated for everything that they're doing, but we do everything we can to support them. And I think you would be proud to walk into any school library and see the activity and the engagement and the care of students. So again, I can keep going on. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them, but I am also cognizant of time. So don't know what to do at this point unless anyone has questions.
No, that was great. There's been so much bad news. No, that was really, I'm really glad to hear that. And I really, yeah, just in awe of that. And I want to see, turn around, I don't have a good memorability. But Liz, go ahead.
Yes, Priscilla, does the library, the school library have something outside of the PTA, like the Friends of the Library that we have, as well as the foundation, raise money for the school library? Do you guys have?
Yeah, so we don't have things like a Friends of the Library. However, the PTSA is often very generous with the library. We don't make money off of students. We don't charge fines or fees, you know, so we do depend a lot on the budget that's given to us from trickling down from the Board of Supervisors and down into instructional services and so forth. Our librarians can and often do apply for grants. And, they do the, the donors choose and those kinds of things where they're looking for something tangible. They do wish lists on Amazon where people can donate, or they have birthday clubs where people can donate books in the name of their child for their birthday and so forth. One thing I will say is that our budgets have been pretty static, but even so, we as being a large school district have a lot of leverage, and so we have very favorable contracts and contract terms, so we get the best bang for our buck that we possibly can. But there's always more need. So, people can absolutely donate to their school library, they can donate funds. And that does happen, but we don't have anything formal.
Chris, so, you mentioned donors choose. Okay, you mentioned donors choose. I get emails from time to time just because a teacher friend needed money one time, and so I donated, but I don't see things pop up for Fairfax County. I was gonna say, if you have any school library donor choose kinds of things, can you let us know?
I have to double check that I can let you know. But yeah, I mean, I will say that the thing that is most needed, I think often is not actually book money or resource money, but things like furniture. Fresh new story rugs for our kids to sit on, displays, display cases and things like that, our schools get renovated like every 20, 25 years. And so some of those things are very expensive. Like, you would be shocked at how much one library chair costs, or one table costs. And technology always is a need. The system has invested a lot in individual student technology, and yet we still need up-to-date technology even for walk-up use in the library.
Have you ever thought of using the buildings trade people to make tables and chairs?
Oh, we have had some amazing, we have, not only that, in our high schools, we have, all kinds of academies and engineering and building and so forth. We've had some amazing projects happen in some schools, but there's also we also have rules, right? We also have educational specifications for how things have to be, some of it's for safety reasons. So it gets a little tricky sometimes when it comes to that, but keep good ideas coming, because I'm sure that there's somebody somewhere that can take advantage of it.
Okay, thank you so much. Look forward to the next word. Any other committee chairs that are not on the agenda, if you have any new information or report to make, feel free at this time. Okay, and next on the agenda is the director's report.
Thanks, Fran. So I figured I would start off. You all have a little document in front of you with some reminders now that we're in this kind of virtual setting. And first off is remember to turn your mic off on when you're speaking and turn it off when you're done. And get your face real close up there. Smush your mask all the way into it, because we're trying to communicate with the folks that are out there and the people that are here. So you really want to make sure that we're enunciating and speaking loud and all those kinds of things. And if you can, if you're turning around, move the mic with you, just because that way I know myself, hey, over there, but then your mic doesn't move. So there's just a couple little hints as we're acclimating to this new normal. And on Friday, after tomorrow's holiday, I'm going to send you all an email as well, asking for feedback about how you think these first two, they're not really hybrid meetings, we can't call them hybrid because it's you're in person, but these hybrid meetings are going. We've tried to set the tables up so that the people at home can see you all, but I recognize that makes this side further away from this side, so it might make it harder to hear each other. The audio is certainly something we continue to work on. So we're gonna want your feedback. There may not be everything that we can change, but we're gonna try and do what we can. Including my thanks to library IT and to Bobby. We're gonna be buying everyone individual mics, so we don't have to pass them back and forth, but as with many things, they are backordered. As is our permanent setup, which is why it's still on the car. So eventually, it will be shiny and beautiful, but for now it is cable-y and don't trip on. So, so thank you in advance for your feedback about how these have gone and any suggestions you have going forward. You saw it in my director's report, there's really interesting things going on. The first one on there is our circulating Wi-Fi's, which have been a long time coming. We were able to utilize some of the emergency connectivity funds that we were awarded to purchase additional Chromebooks that will be circulating to the public and Wi-Fi units. And this is another huge shout out to Margaret in the corner over there, who persevered through endless contract amendments to try and make these things happen. So hallelujah, and thank you for sticking with it, because they're really important. So if you come into a public library, you can use one of our computers for an hour or two, and that might be enough. But if you choose not to have internet connectivity at home, or cannot afford it, or don't have good connections, and you don't have a student using FCPS who has a Wi-Fi unit, you don't have as many options. So if you can check out a Wi-Fi unit and a laptop and take it home for a couple of weeks, that gives you some freedom to think and to plan and to work out what you need to do without that stress of time crunch and people waiting for resources. So we're very excited that this is finally moving forward. One of the other items on here is around Canopy, which is another, has been in our queue for years, I know. We've had consistent, regular, ongoing demands from our patrons for some type of streaming video service. And we have consistently said no, because it costs so much. The way that most of the streaming video services work is a paid per usage model. So if Diane chooses to watch X many things on the library's account, we get billed per usage. And for a movie, it might be $1.99 or $3.99, or however much it is. $5 is what I'm getting signal right now. And for TV shows, it was per episode. And when I lived and worked in California, I remember one of the larger systems in Southern California had eaten up $1 million of their collection development budget because they haven't set caps on how many circulations could be used by individual people. So my thanks to Diane and to Tech Ops, who have negotiated, or we are in the process of negotiating a contract for Canopy, which is a streaming movie service that will be available through the Overdrive application site. It's going to be really handy because you don't have to learn a new interface, and most of us know that the movie process in Overdrive is fairly quick to pick up, and it's one less place that people have to go to. We will be setting caps. We have seen from our colleagues and neighbors, we're not going to make that unlimited, and I don't know quite where it is right now. It's 5 or 6 movies a month, but something really reasonable that folks can go in, enjoy a little bit. If you don't want to pay for a service on your own, you just need regular educational entertainment options. We are fully anticipating that people are going to love this too much, and that we're going to be in trouble in about a year because this is being paid for through ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act. We will cross that bridge when we come to it because it's important to offer things to the community essentially. In addition to items that are formally on here, I wanted to give you a couple of other updates. The Virginia Library Association conference was last week, 2 weeks ago. Time flies, 2 weeks ago. And that was an in-person conference. It's the first in-person conference many library staff have been to, almost 2 years now. And it was really nice to see people in person and to hear the experiences of other public and academic libraries and how they have adjusted and modified their services during the pandemic. I was able to participate in a session that was all around training and learning opportunities for staff and how to combat that virtual fatigue. People really don't want to drive and get squished into a room with lots of folks at this point, but they also don't want to stare at a screen for 8 hours. And it was just fascinating to listen to what our colleagues in places like Virginia Beach and Rico County are doing to try and find a midpoint there. We were able to send 6 staff members, and they were all presenting on behalf of FCPL, which is always nice because then they give us a little bump in our recognition across the state. And I'm really hopeful that next year's Virginia Library Association conference will be one where we can send even more staff to it, feel better about it. In the same vein, what used to be called Midwinter for the American Library Association, it's now called Live Learning X, which, whatever. It's another all online conference. It's in January. If any of you are interested, we would be happy to pay for your participation. It's 4 days. And while previously Midwinter was really focused on like work and kind of the nuts and bolts of the National Association, now that it's virtual, they actually have some really interesting tracks that are popping up with different conference topics. So I'll send you all around the link on Friday, and let me know if you have something you want to participate in and watch. I'm trying to do so myself. And much like the prior American Library Association conference in summer, we're going to be offering a registration for each of our branches so that they want to set it up in a conference room, or if they want to share it, everyone on staff can have an opportunity to participate. A tiny update on the library deputy director recruitment. It has closed and we'll be interviewing in a couple of weeks. So I'm hopeful that in 2022 we'll have some fantastic news to share with you and a bright shiny new face to introduce my half of the face. The only other, I'm not gonna get soapboxy about it, but I wanted to say I really appreciate Priscilla's comments about the library being a place for de-stressing. I get comments sometimes from the public or from just interested people about the types of programs that we offer in our public libraries. So we have recently started a virtual D&D program, which, you know, D&D involves books. There's like books that you read as you're trying to work through it, but it's maybe not a traditional library program. But I don't care that it's not a traditional library program, because our job as a public library, much like our school library colleagues, is to offer opportunities for people to live their lives and be less stressed and educate and entertain and find the information that they're looking for. And even if a D&D virtual program is not exactly my cup of tea, it could be for someone. And maybe that's an opportunity for them to find an entry point to the library or not. Maybe this is just a one-time thing that they really enjoy. That's okay. We are okay with that. And many of the programs that we've been offering throughout the pandemic, virtually and in person, have hit that kind of mark where we continue to offer story times and adult book clubs and teen poetry slams and all of our traditional things. But the things that are a little bit different, some of them might stick, some of them might not. But we are trying to be nimble with the needs of the community and give them services that allow them to continue to breathe throughout this time that we're in. And for our school library colleagues out there, they're getting hit from all sides right now. I am sure many of you have seen the interest that there is, the heightened interest around collection development and materials that are held in both our public and our school libraries. What you may not have seen is that there are some places across our states where public librarians are having criminal lawsuits filed against them for materials that they select, and that our school librarians are being harassed, I would say, for the materials that they have offered to the public and for their students. And they work really hard. All our staff do in public and school libraries. So I hope that we are all able to continue to support our wonderful staff as they do their job and make things available to the public and for our students, materials, programs, services, storytime rugs, all the good stuff. So thank you, Priscilla, for representing your school libraries. That's all I have. I'm sorry about the tiny soapbox that I did. So I'm happy to answer any questions folks have about things on their roads.
Question. Talking to Mike, Jessica, you said something very passionate. And I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I don't know what a D&D virtual is.
Well, I was just about to ask you a question about that, and I'm happy to answer him while I ask you the question. So if you like, because it's all in the same.
So D&D is Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh. I feel so bad now.
It's a role-playing game. So it's a dice game with a book associated with it. So you're following a path and you connect with different characters. Yeah.
I thought it as a new term.
No, D&D.
I wanted to just make a comment and say how very happy I am. I mean, I never myself was ever into Dungeons. However, in these times, when particular communities are being excluded more and more, when there's so much stress, a lot of kids who have been drawn to Dungeons and Dragons historically have been among those most excluded people who have the hardest time finding each other. And in a virtual life that they've led for almost 2 years now, those very tenuous connections between children who have a harder time finding each other have been broken. I've seen that in many teacher friends telling me and parents telling me that their child who had a hard time finding his or her people or their people are really struggling when they're getting back into it and not knowing how to find that vibe. And Dungeons and Dragons is always a very welcoming place for that kind of child who didn't always feel welcome. So I really am very touched with the thought of that, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to offer.
I'm not
And
gonna
this
fess
time
up,
is special.
yeah, I'm not gonna fess up that I still have D&D books in my house. Because that would out me, not that it's a bad thing. But no, there are so many programs like that that may seem like they don't have everything. Good, that means that we are paying attention to what the community needs are, and our fabulous staff are finding ways to fill those gaps.
Really good, thank you.
Okay, I first of all, am very much in favor of the nimbleness of trying different things, so it's cool, you know, it's very up. I have a question that may be technical, maybe Margaret might answer it, but I'm a little confused in case when I'm speaking to my supervisor or as chief of staff about the Wi-Fi units. Now, I know the way my Wi-Fi works. I've got cable and phone and stuff like that. How does a person who doesn't have Wi-Fi and takes home this unit and plugs it into the wall, how do they get internet access? Is it satellite or something? I mean, they certainly don't. How does that work?
Yeah, I would be happy to ask Margaret to respond to
Yeah,
that, because I would give the wrong answer.
I'm sorry, and I was pretending to be in the Zoom meeting. The question again, please.
Okay, so my mind, I don't know how it would work for a person who doesn't have, say, Verizon, or something in their home. They walk home and they have this unit, they plug it in. Now, they're not near a library, so they're not using our Wi-Fi.
Right.
We don't have.
It's like your phone.
Think of it as your phone.
Yeah,
I mean, if you've ever used your phone as a hotspot,
yeah,
essentially your phone can become a cellular provider of signal.
yeah.
And the devices that we're going to check out will be like a phone that they can't make calls out of. They'll boot it up. They'll say, okay, I am now a place where you can go to get Wi-Fi. Go ahead and connect your laptop, your phone, whatever your other device is.
So it is over.
It is cellular.
So.
It's not Wi-Fi.
So.
Right.
That makes some sense to me, because I've used my phone, but I was trying to figure out how in the world we're gonna let somebody.
Well, there are going to be some.
Plug it in at any time.
There are going to be some limitations. It will be a chargeable device, so they can plug it in and then take it somewhere else if they like. Librarians have used these at outreach events for a long time, so that we can get in and give people library cards at the Centerville Day and things like that. We will have the ability to shut these off remotely, so that if they are not returned on time, we can essentially brick them, is the term. They will be throttled, so it will not be unlimited internet access, so that you can have stream Netflix 24/7 for the entire time period that you have them. What will happen is that the performance will degrade after the data usage gets down to a certain point. But think of it as it's like we're giving someone a gift card for a certain amount of free internet access. And after they use that amount, the performance will be so bad they'll bring it back.
That makes more sense. Thank you.
I'm glad you asked that.
Anybody else have any? Oh, the next item on the
Excuse me,
agenda.
Fran, can I
Oh,
say
yeah,
something?
that was-
It just says for a long period of time. Have we established any rules around how long they can?
2 weeks or 3?
We're gonna keep them for the same period as the Chromebooks,
2 weeks or 3 weeks?
which is 2 weeks, 2 weeks, just 2 weeks. And we do have an agreement written by the county attorney's office that customers will have to sign before they are checked out. Heads up for all of you guys on the recommendation of information security and the county attorney's office. These devices are not filtered. They are not the same devices as Priscilla and her team would check out to school students. We are checking them out only to customers 18 and older, and they are not filtered.
And do we track them in case somebody loses one that we can pin or do?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we
Find
can,
my phone.
we track with the Wi-Fi units, we can break them if we need, so like if somebody is taking them and not brought them back, they become unusable when we change the access links.
So they'll have a due date and we can remotely turn them off.
So I just know that my husband left his iPad at one time at an airport, and he was able to see exactly where it was on his phone. I was wondering if that was.
And chances are we may have something similar. I don't know how close it's gonna be. They've just started to trickle into the office and we're just getting access to the tools this week, so.
Will every library have a certain amount to sign out or?
The first, Jessica, can I sort of go?
Yeah, do you want to come grab a mic though?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you. I have 2 purchases planned. The first purchase is going to be a purchase of 25, and they will be made into a kit with the Chromebooks that we currently have circulating. So we're going to call those Chromebooks back, stuff the Wi-Fi in the outside pocket, stuff a copy of the agreement out, and then let them start circulating as a kit. With Jessica's support and assistance, we applied for FCC emergency connectivity funding this year. And we received a grant for 50 more Chromebooks and 50 more hotspots. So Liz, in answer to your question, the first 25 are just going to be at the 5 branches that have it right now. So we have a fleet of 75. I've been working with Doug Miller in our strategic planning office to determine where the internet deserts are in Fairfax County. The majority of the kits are going to go to those branches. All branches will get some will get more than others. You know, all branches are equal to some are more equal than others in this case. I'm excited about this project, so I'll answer anybody's questions.
Thank you.
And also, thank you very much for the onboard.
I just don't know what 5 branches have access today.
So we had started off with 5 pilot branches. I'm gonna get them horribly wrong, Margaret. It was Herndon, Fairfax, Sherwood, George, and
And that other one.
number 5. And the rest, branch number 5, Reston. And so some branches, because we want to make sure that these are optimized, we're gonna pool resources in communities where we know there's a higher need already there. So someplace like, I don't know, Brook, may not need as many as Sherwood or Lorton or Great Falls, where there's not as good a connectivity.
Number 5 was Centerville, by the way. Centerville, Fairfax, George, Reston, Sherwood. Thank you.
All right, the next item is a consideration item, that you are familiar with our process. This is a month consideration item so that it's available to everyone to the public. And then next month we will have it as an extra item to discuss and vote on. And it's clarifying, I don't know if I get this right, it's like clarifying aspects of our notifying policy that was already adopted. So this just provides more details. Jessica, is that a good summary of what we're doing?
Absolutely. So the vote that you all took in September was to no longer associate overview funds with materials. And this is finalizing that through the actual policy that we have.
Any questions on the consideration item? not about it itself, but the process.
I have a question on this,
Liz, yeah. And we get the microphone close to you,
Yeah.
get a soft voice.
accepting some special collections, what is
Mhm.
exactly?
Okay, yeah, okay.
I can clarify that because it's part of the cover letter. So special collections would include things like our photo cameras, the nature backpacks, our American Revolution history kits, interlibrary loan materials, things that are not our standard physical items.
Anybody else? Oh, we're ready for the round table. Where should we start? Bill, on the end, so if you have anything for round table, as we go around. Or let the microphone, turn it on, hold it close to your mask mouth.
Wish I didn't hear this part of the conversation. I wish, I suggested to the county, so you have to have a mask on, or it's going to take it down. That's my fault. Sorry.
As I said, Phil, no, I just have a couple of things from the foundation. They attended the City of Fairfax Fall Festival in October the 9th. And are pleased that they raised $2,249 in sales. But the most important part of that day is that they interacted with about 1,000 attendees. And that was really impressive, and again, making connections. The other thing they wanted us to know is that the foundation has raised $47,147 in fiscal year 22 so far. And they just expect it to increase over the holidays. So that was, again, just an update on the foundation. I don't have anything else.
Thank you.
So I really enjoyed learning about the new items that are coming to the library system, especially the MyFis and books. I know that in the work we do, we always have students who come looking for technology to help them learn online. So if we could direct them to the public libraries to check that out, that'd be really great.
I want to say about which I appreciate what you still have to say about what was going on in the public school library, and was really excited to hear, and I wish I could have heard more of it, what was happening by marketing. I've been thinking a lot about our job as librarians and what we do, or staff, much for staff in the public library. And recently, we retirees, we've lost a couple, 2 or 3 really remarkable librarians who have died. And one especially, Jill Freeman, who was a particular, I worked with her for several years. And in the old days, and it was old days, it was at the beginning of internet, I felt like we were ahead of the curve with responding. And and now the library just continues to. And a little aside, one of Jill's requests is that donations to her, whatever you call it, which died or are given to library foundation. So you see the dedication and the continued dedication of librarians, and I think I'm just so proud to be part of this.
Yeah, I also worked with Jill at Chantilly. She was just a wonderful, wonderful person. I'm like you, like, did this happen before the last meeting or between the last meeting and this meeting, but the 50th anniversary at Sherwood?
That was between the last 2 meetings.
Okay, so I can talk about it. Had a great time. I learned how to make paper, and I made some great purchases from my friends. And Erin was there taking pictures, and then Christine Jones came, and then Diane Colon came, and it was just it was just so much fun, and I guess it probably too. No, I'm kidding. It was really great. Okay.
Okay, as far as Braddock District, we've had book sale at Kings Park this past weekend. They made about $10,000 or so. They're very happy with it. So there are some upcoming sales in December. We have one at Work Center, the 10th and the 11th, mostly of the holiday materials and gift. I mean, it's very, very good. And clean. And in Kings Park, they have another sale. The next sale becomes in April. Around that time, Work Center. So anyway, the sales are going well. The friends are good. We had a nice program at Work Center in the garden area earlier this week where the children were making little stones, painting things like that. But we not only in that garden. Yes. Finally, I just want to recognize publicly that I think we all know today is Marine Corps birthday. So congratulations to them, and tomorrow is Veterans Day. So all veterans, things like that, including my dad, who was a Marine on Iwo Jima, and will be 100 years old in about 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Great.
So happy Veterans Day to my dad, also was a Marine in Vietnam. But in addition to that, I wanted to say thank you to the volunteers at our libraries. My particular libraries do not have friends group, but I've learned that we do have some great volunteers. So, and they got recognized last meeting, of course, but I just want to say thank you to those who may not have got recognized.
I wanted to also just say that I went by, going by Great Falls Library, and happened to serendipitously show up on the day that the Great Falls Garden Club was doing this whole, the 80 years of the community, and they were celebrating that, planting things at the library. And you see them there all the time, and it is a lovely little area, but that was really fun. It just happened to go. It was again about that ILL book. And I happened to show up serendipitously on that day. Another thing, I think that I really think that maybe we should, I don't know where or when we should discuss this, but Phil makes a very good point when he talks about this hearing issue. This is an access issue. So when we were virtual, interestingly enough, the whole world could watch us if they wanted to, and they could hear us. And the fact that one of our trustees actually has, or maybe two, I mean, I know that Phil has a hearing impairment, and I'm seeing others here saying that this could be just regular hearing loss or disability hearing loss, but we aren't accessible because we're in person if our own trustees can't hear us. So we really do need to figure that out if we're gonna, because we are gonna be needing to wear these masks for who knows how much longer. We can't just pretend that that's not a real thing. It's not fair. And Phil's been sitting here for an hour and a half, not really hearing everything that we've been saying, and in our community as well. So there could be people tuning in who have no idea what we're saying. It's so hard to hear even in this room. So I think that we really do need to take the time to actually look at that as a serious consideration for our future meetings, for obvious reasons. And another thing I just want to make sure to just say, and I think this might be something for us to also be prepared for and to discuss as a body is just, certain threats that are facing our collections. And I don't want us to act like that's not the case if we just talk about all the other good stuff, because there's bad stuff potentially on the horizon too that really has a lot to do with what Fran said in her chair's minutes or whatever, chair's report. That is a very important thing. And as library trustees, it's our responsibility to look forward for that and to support our libraries and our librarians who are facing this. I mean, what Jessica shared about what's happening in other Virginia libraries of personal lawsuits being named against librarians. You wouldn't want you lose your whole staff. Who would want to do that, right? If you are facing personal lawsuits. it's something we really do need to prepare for. And, you know, you don't want to be caught without having done that work. So I just want to make sure I said that. Thank you.
Thank you, and I forgot to say, I wanted to talk about the election last week, in that I worked at TJ, which was an early voting site, and it was really fun because people were coming to go to the library, and when they saw that they could vote, they didn't know, they were really excited, and they voted, and the whole citizen engagement process that, you know, the early voting site of the library was able to facilitate was exciting to me. And I went by, well, to pick up one of the annual reports, and I would talk to folks there and the branch manager to see, was it a negative impact on library staff to be an early voting site? And not at all, and shared the excitement that I had. Well, it's a quiet excitement, you know, libraries, but to participate in this way. And so then on election day, which was the first time that the libraries have been closed, on election day, I was working at a Woodrow, which is a precinct voting site. And there were a number, so I was there for about 2.5 hours or so, and there were a number, and it was a really cold day too. But there were a number of people who came to go to the library who were really surprised that the library was closed. And so I tried to put that spin on it. Isn't it exciting? This way staff is free to vote, not a thing. And they were okay with that, but it was good. I think it was good to be there so that they didn't just go up to the door and find out that they couldn't go in the library and have no idea why. That it was the first time, it's a holiday in the state, encourage more voters. So it was interesting. The whole thing of, I know that it used to be kind of an issue for Woodrow about, and Great Falls is
Oh, yeah, lots of them.
yeah, and then we had a number that were also early voting, but anyway, just wanted to share that with everybody, because I thought it was really great. So I think, we're at the end. So does anybody have anything else, or, okay, Liz?
I'm sorry, but I was thinking that we might hear something this time about the rollout on phones.
What? Sure.
So you want to hear more about the public communication process we're going to find for your December meeting, when you have your action item to approve the policy change. But we are all queued up to roll that out on January 1st. Including a really nice kickoff. We're going to have the back of our next Branch Out magazine featuring it. We've got graphics already working on social media posts, and we're going to start in mid-January pushing the idea of many happy returns as people are bringing things back over the holiday season. Our marketing crew, who you heard from earlier tonight, has done a really fab job of thinking through how to keep that messaging fresh. So we've got a couple of different themes we're going to use over that first year to remind people that there is still an obligation to bring your things back, but we're not going to charge you money to, you know, just not walk people through your back. So December is when we're going to do that.
Anything else, anybody? Then call for a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.